years ago, aboard the trimaran Outward Leg, Tristan Jones battled ice packs, impassable shoals, and unfriendly governments to sail through Europe from the North Sea at Amsterdam to the Black Sea at Romania. The adventure recounted in his book, The Improbable Voyage. Now only months since the fall of the communist government, Tristan is back in Romania helping to make his treacherous European passage accessible to future yachtsmen. And as you will see, his return has more than its share of irony.
Right below here is the site of a cafe. Closed down now, it's like a ruin now. It was the Communist Party meeting place. They used to come with their uniforms and their briefcases. And by that time I was so disgusted and thoroughly fed up with seeing people lined up and bullied and brainwashed by Ceaușescu's thugs that I gave them a little speech, and I told them the truth. I love this country. I love the people of this country. I love the old town of Constanta with its architecture, its historical interest. But I said, comrades, I hate your government. It stinks. It's the worst government I've seen since Franco's Spain. It's not communist, it's not socialist, it's oligarchical and it's fascist. And for that, I was escorted across to the harbour. I was stopped by two Securitate agents, and I put one of them into the harbour water. I was run along the jetty, and that's how I left Romania. And I'm now back as the Commodore of Constanta Marina. I'm very proud of it too. This port is the exit point of a river system. With the completion of the Rhine-Main-Donau Canal in Germany, that waterway system will mean that a yacht will be able to go from, for example, London or Stockholm, right through to the Mediterranean, through Europe, and here is where they will take off for the sunny waters of the Aegean, the Mediterranean, because we've got such a beautiful old town and such a beautiful port, one of the oldest ports in the Mediterranean area, founded by the Greeks. The Phoenicians were all here, Ulysses was here. Ovid, the poet, was born about 50 feet away from where I'm standing now. For the average yachtsman, Romania is a very interesting place to visit. The museum that's here is very interesting. There's some very fine Greek and Roman work up there, some very good statues.
As we explored the town and harbor of Constanta, Tristan reflected on Romania's tragic past.
Their modern history has been very sad. The communists took over in 1947. Most of the intelligentsia was killed off. And it was very easy for the communists to put a very, very repressive system in place, which they did, eventually winding up with Ceaușescu. And he made the place into nothing less than a country-sized penitentiary. That's what it was. You served your time. Nobody was allowed to leave. Nobody was allowed to talk to strangers. When we came down the Danube years ago in 1985, police would be watching the boat, there'd be an armed guard, and if you talked to anybody in the street, there were people following you to report what you said. And the only yachting was one man who used to come down. He used to sail up and down the harbour. He wasn't allowed out at all. There was a machine gun at the harbour entrance. And he would sail up and down the harbour, just like this chap's doing now. But this one's just come in, of course, from the regatta.
With the gun post now dismantled, sailors are free to come and go, and sailing regattas are on the rise all around Constanta. But we were scheduled to leave and explore the southern delta of the mighty Danube River, stopping first in St. George, then heading north to Tulcea, and eventually the Soviet border, and then on south through the Sulina Channel, stopping at the island of Sulina.
The vessel, unlikely, is Reese Palley's boat. She's the subject of a book, Unlikely Passages, which Reese wrote and published several years ago. I first had been on board of her in Rhodes in Greece in 1985. We're starting a marina at Constanta. We sailed from Constanta direct to St. George in the bit Mathers St. George Channel. It's an open river mouth with the sea just piling in. The river channel moves so much that the front mark is movable. It's one of the very few in the world, so they can move it on a rail like this to lead you up the channel wherever it's shifted to. The St. George Channel is by far the more picturesque and the more well-preserved and untouched, natural. And I think it's well worth a trip up there. I like that very much.
We docked for the night at St. George next to the ferry and headed ashore, feeling as if we'd stepped back in time several centuries to a much simpler era. With our supplies replenished, we pulled out of St. George the next day, heading north up the Danube to the town of Tulcea. Along the way are twin symbols of liberty, the Romanian flag with the communist insignia cut out, and the American flag attracted some fishermen. Tristan pulled over, and we were lucky to get some fresh fish for dinner. Then we pushed on, enjoying Romania's uniquely pastoral countryside. Yet even in the countryside, Ceaușescu's influence was evident in his planted forest, a monument to conformity. And further on, when we passed the heavily industrial town of Tulcea, littered with untended and rusting tuna trawlers. We didn't tarry long and continued up the Danube to see the Soviet border.
We went to the Soviet border. It's just a row of trees with a watchtower over the top. That's it, that's the Iron Curtain, that's what it's like. But remember, this goes all the way to Alaska. That's the incredible thing about it.
After our look at the Soviet border, Tristan turned the boat around and, dodging the heavy river traffic, we headed down the middle channel to the village of Sulina.
Down through the northern channel, which is the Sulina channel, was a bit too straightforward and canalized. It was still interesting from a wildlife point of view and from a cultural point of view to see all the houses. There's no cars on the whole island of Sulina. We had a tremendous reception in Sulina, which is not at all unusual in the countryside in Romania, in the small towns and villages.
We spent the night in Sulina, then headed out onto the Black Sea where we again hoisted the sails and cruised back toward Constanta, where Tristan reminisced on the plight of Romania and his role as the Commodore of Constanta Harbor.
We all know the political history of Eastern Europe over the last 40, 50 years. It has not been very happy. It's even worse for the people who live here because even most of the most dyed-in-the-wool communists have discovered that their dream was untrue. And this is a great disillusion. And I feel for these people because it's not easy at the age of 60 or 70 to say that you've worked all your life for a lie. My main mission at the moment as Commodore of this marina is to persuade the Romanians to have the courage to admit their own mistake. They know themselves that they've got shortcomings and no society's perfect, and I think that the balance is on their side, and I've got every hope for the future for Romania. They certainly deserve it because after 780 years of repression, it's the first breath of freedom they've ever known. It takes a lot of getting used to.